Welcome to Talking Really. Today, this story, I partly agree with in one respect, because these scooters, the larger ones, they can do 6 mile an hour, 8 mile an hour or higher, and generally the elderly are the ones, or obviously are the main ones, who will be using these scooters to get around. I mean, some of the larger ones are really big, and there is actually no regulations as to who can drive these things, and there's no this is where the problem is with this story, because this it's been publicised in the Telegraph and the Express, and we'll have a look at that now. So in the Express, a coroner has called on the government to consider regulation for scooters to curb a record number of deaths. And unfortunately, I have to partly agree, but in one respect. However, they could have a mandatory training course where they could teach people how to use the scooter. Now, I do know from experience that some mobility shops, they sell these devices. They do offer free training. Now, not many, but there are some, and I can certainly recommend that people have training. And if anybody needs any training, then obviously contact me, because I offer that. But the idea here is that they want to make it law. They want to have very similar to vehicles, cars, and things like that, where you have to probably have a insurance and license. And I was actually asked this once by someone. He said, "Well, what happens if you hit somebody with your scooter?" I said, "Well, hopefully I won't." But it was a good point, because I don't have any insurance for it. Certainly not like the same sort of thing that you would have with a car. There is no, I don't think there is any. I suppose you could take out a private policy, but I don't know many people that would have that. So if you did, obviously the main story in the Telegraph is about an elderly lady that died in a shop. Well, she was hit in a shop and then later died. It's a bit of a hit and run story. The Telegraph basically says, I'll read this one, but the Telegraph story, the lady was in the queue in a shop, and the other lady on the scooter shot forward and knocked her over. But then as she reversed out, it happened again, and she ran over the lady. And the harrowing story continues with the fact that the scooter driver just did a hit and run, and they left, and they haven't been traced. Well, not been traced yet. And obviously from the injuries of the lady that was in the queue, she later died. And she obviously suffered a broken something or other, broken arm or leg or whatever it was. But the scooter user just drove off. What would have happened, I don't know. If she had stayed around, I don't know, because she obviously hasn't got any insurance, and I would say it's probably not deliberate. But this just goes to show that the level of control of the vehicle is something that's quite worrying, really.
Mobility scooters need more regulation to combat record levels of deaths. A coroner has warned that the government should consider measures to combat a record number of deaths involving mobility scooters. Figures from the Department for Transport show that a staggering 16 people were killed in collisions involving mobility scooters last year, with 90 people being left with serious injuries, as a result of accidents. Minor injuries were also sustained by 222 people in the same time period. The warning comes from Samantha Marsh, the senior coroner for Somerset, who made the remarks in the inquest of Natalie Young, who died 5 weeks after being hit by a scooter in Morrison's in 2022. Ms. March called on the Transport Secretary to consider introducing measures similar to those required to drive a car, warning that a complete lack of regulation could lead to a continued rise in deaths. She said, "Mobility scooters can reach a fast enough speed to pose a significant risk to the entire community and population, but specifically, small children, pregnant mothers, and the elderly, who are all particularly vulnerable to being impacted at speed by a blunt force object and dying as a result of the injuries they sustain. I am concerned that the lack of regulation around mobility scooters will continue to result in further deaths, especially when there continues to be no regulation around those who are deemed fit to operate and use them." In total, there were 328 injuries from mobility scooter accidents in 2023, more than double than a decade before, where only 156 were recorded, leading to 5 deaths. London had the highest number of collisions, with 104 in the past 5 years, with the West Midlands and Nottingham the second and third most dangerous, with 76 and 75 deaths respectively. Another fatal collision involved Mark Jackson, a double amputee, whose scooter was involved in a collision with a car earlier this year. The 61-year-old collided with a red Ford Fusion in Grantham and died the next day. There are believed to be over 300,000 mobility scooter users in the UK, with no license or lesson being required to operate one. Motor vehicle drivers over 70, however, must renew their driving licenses every 3 years, complete a medical declaration form, and pass an eye test. A Department for Transport spokesperson said, "To ensure mobility scooter users remain safe, we have provided funding for a training scheme to educate users."
So you can see that story, they're trying to regulate by law. A lot of people who are currently using these things will probably not pass. And of course then their mobility, no pun intended, but their mobility will be curtailed and they will be housebound, because a lot of people use these things for getting to the shops, and I know the bigger ones, they don't generally take them inside, but the size that I have, you can see them going around the shops. Now, it's not difficult to have training, and it does require practice, obviously. It's also about spatial awareness. I mean, I've shown what could happen when you lose control. It was a video I did on my travel channel.
Blimey.
A lady coming into Wetherspoons crashed into the wall because she's lost control. And it is all about being able to control the controls, because they do require a certain amount of practice. So I agree in one respect that there should be mandatory training. I don't think that it's requirement to be the same way as a car, in the fact you need a driving license, you need to have a driving test. I think insurance would be a good idea, just in case you have a damage or something, or damaged property. But then, do bikes have insurance? I don't know. I'm talking about push bikes, because they're a scourge in the on the roads. They're just a pain in the ass. Do bike riders have to have training? Do they have to have insurance? I don't know. Somebody could tell me. But maybe if they have insurance and they have training, then maybe mobility scooters also need to have training and insurance. I'm only saying. So, but I do agree partly that there are a lot of people out there using scooters who really are dangerous, and even for myself, and I'm a very well seasoned, travelled, scooter user, and I have been told many times that I can put this thing into a small space like a pro, and they are very impressed with my ability to move it around and put it into places and slots that you would think, well, that's not going to fit in there, but it does. And obviously with the spatial awareness aspect of it, you have to have eyes in the back of your head sometimes, because pedestrians really don't see you. They don't understand that you are there and you can't move out of the way. I mean, only this morning I've had several cases where people have been coming towards me and last minute they moved out of the way. But of course I was already taking precautions, as it were, preparing to stop or move out of the way. And it was like, oh, sorry mate, I didn't see you there. Well, come on, I'm big enough, and if you had your eyes open instead of on your phone, then maybe you would have seen me earlier and avoided me. But yeah, I don't know, just find it very strange. And let me know what you think. What should happen? What do you think is a best solution for this? Let me know. And of course, don't forget, like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Catch you next time.